at 7 p.m. in the Germantown Village Hall Boardroom and also can be accessed via WebEx. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with sections 19.83 and 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all village board members present except for Trustee Kaminsky, who is excused. At this time, I'll ask us all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. A couple announcements on President's Report tonight. I have been receiving several communications either via phone or email about our microphone system and the need to talk directly into the microphone system so that everybody can hear you. Even such of a little matter of doing this, and it seems to cut out for whatever reason. Where it is really prevalent is the one on the podium. That one cuts out the worst when anybody turns their head, and we're looking at ways to help rectify that. But right now, just kind of be focused in on where your microphone is and talk to it directly as possible. And everybody that's listening to us or watching us at home will be able to hear every word and will appreciate it. The next thing I have is there was an employee food drive put on through the village with the village employees. And they were able to collect 880 food items, and they donated it to the St. Boniface Food Pantry, and they run a little contest amongst themselves. And this year, the Public Works won the competition. Village attorney says that's unfair, because he's a department of one, but maybe next time, he can bring a few more items and get involved in the competition. So thank you all who participated, and I'm sure the St. Boniface Food Drive appreciates it very much. The next item I would have is about this past weekend's holiday events with the walk and run, with the Christmas Day parade, and with the events that happened at Fireman's Park. But I see Lynn is here, so I don't want to take her thunder away. And we'll hear more about that when she comes forward. So that's all I have for President's Report. So we can then go to announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee or department reports, starting with committee chairs and Trustee Miller.
General Government and Finance will meet on December 20th at 6 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have information about the next Public Works meeting?
It's on December 8th at 6 p.m.
All right.
Here at the Village Hall.
Thank you. Trustee Myers.
President, Public Safety next meeting is December 6th at 6 p.m. in this room.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have anything else for announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee or department reports they'd like to bring forward? Okay, then we can go on to the next item, which is citizen input and public appearance on items not subject to a public hearing. There is one public hearing on tonight's agenda for the village budget. If you are here to speak for or against or bring items to our attention about the village budget, I would ask that you wait until the public hearing to do so. But if there is anyone else in our audience or have joined us via WebEx that would like to participate in citizen input and public appearance, you're welcome to do so at this time. Is there anyone wishing to come forward? Lights off. There you go.
My name is Lynn Gergich. I live at West 168 North 11062 Ashbury Circle, Unit 5 in Germantown. And I'm here tonight for the Germantown Chamber of Commerce just to say thank you again for all of the village support to the Chamber Christmas Festival this past weekend. We had the 5K Candy Cane Run Walk, the 12th annual. We had about 300 registrations, 226 people actually showed up. I'm sure the cold temperatures had a little effect on the turnout for that event. The Christmas parade, we had a new route this year following the 4th of July route to bring all our spectators, hopefully, to Fireman's Park, where we had moved all of the Christmas festival activities. So at the park, we had horse-drawn carriage rides, hot chocolate, cookies, which are free, the Candyland adventure, and then visits with Santa after he got through the parade. We had a great turnout at the park. We didn't know this first year at the new location what to expect. We did utilize the shelter. It was wonderful. And I think just are expecting to see bigger and better things in the years to follow. So again, I know there's a lot of village resources that we utilize, and we appreciate the participation that you're able to do and help us out with. Our next event, kind of extending the Christmas festival, is new, and it's called the Tannenbaum Trail. So we're going to decorate the path in Fireman's Park with lit Christmas trees. They will be decorated by, could be businesses, organizations, or families and individuals. They will be lit from about November 22nd to December 27th. We will be clustering, you can see in the park now, about 3 or 4 trees around some of the light ballards. Individuals will come in, they'll decorate the trees, they will be lit, and then residents can walk through the park at any time to enjoy viewing the decorated trees. It's kind of a slow start right now. We're about 25% or a little bit more of the trees sold, but we're hoping that as we get closer and get some of the trees decorated, that people will become more aware. It is a new event, become more aware of it, and then there will be trees still available for folks to decorate. So we hope, again, that's the Tannenbaum Trail. It's available for online registration at the Germantown Chamber website, germantownchamber.org. And we hope it just becomes a new community tradition. Lighting the park, getting folks into the park, walking through the park, and just enjoying that great resource that we have in the village. And again, thank you.
Well, thank you, Lynn. And again, you know, a great event like that can't be done without volunteers, a lot of planning beforehand, and a lot of help, you know, on the day of. So we appreciate all your help and all your volunteers' help in making it, again, another great event. Was well participated at the tree lighting. Appreciate Director Ratachek's help and Scott Anderson's help in actually putting up the Christmas tree. I mean, there was a tree there that was never there before, and it looked wonderful, and it was very well appreciated by all that were there at the time that we lit it. So thank you for that, and again, thank you for another great year. Does anyone else want to come forward for citizen input or public appearance at this time? Anyone else? Then we can go on to next item on the agenda, which is consent agenda.
Motion to approve A through I.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to approve consent agenda items A through I. We are being requested to pull item E. It is going back to public safety to be revisited by the Public Safety Committee, so we will not be voting on item E. Is there any other discussion on the approval of consent agenda items A through I minus item E? No discussion? And we'll do roll call vote, please.
Trustee Myers?
Aye.
Trustee Rick Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Baum? Trustee Hudson?
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Nightrider?
Aye.
Trustee Pieper?
Aye.
President Walter?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. That then takes us to the public hearings on tonight's agenda. There's one public hearing listed. Public hearing item A, it's the 2022 Village of Germantown budget and 2021 tax levy. To give us a little bit of background and update us on the information that's before us as part of this public hearing, we'll turn the meeting over to our budget person who has been in charge of our budget, Matthew.
Thank you and good evening. Before you, I provided a 2022 budget overview document. This document is similar to the ones that I've been providing at the committee of the whole meetings. Since we have last met, we have received our 2021 assessed value, which is slightly higher than what I had projected. So as a result, the overall tax rate for the Village of Germantown did decrease slightly, less than a penny, however. For you, you'll see on the table at the top, the 2021 budget or the 2022 budget compared to the 2021 budget, and you'll see that the overall tax levy remained flat for a 0% increase over the 2021 adopted budget. Below, you'll see the tax rate estimates for the following taxing jurisdictions within the Village of Germantown, and those tax rates apply to different home values throughout the village. As we worked out the budget with the village board and department heads, there were several major budget themes that became apparent. First and foremost, one of the goals of staff was to control the tax burden. And as a result, there is a decrease in the tax rate for the 2022 budget over the 2021 budget, as well as the property tax remained flat compared to last year. In addition, we prioritized updating village systems. Which was recently approved, a comprehensive IT management system. We are bringing forward on December 6th, but you'll receive more information tonight, on a modernized ERP system or financial management system, as well as an update to our server and exchange. In addition, we try to put forward an employee-centric budget, which includes a 2.5% pay adjustment, an additional police officer, as well as an additional mechanic in the highway department.
Okay. Any questions? If not, I will then open this public hearing by hereby stating, residents and taxpayers of the Village of Germantown, please note that a public hearing on the proposed 2022 budget will be held at 7 p.m. on November 15th at the Germantown Village Hall on Mequon Road in Germantown. This is a proposed budget. The final levy amount may increase or decrease depending on the majority vote of the board members at the meeting. The Village of Germantown's detail of the 2022 budget is available for public inspection with the Germantown Village Clerk Treasurer's Office, or also can be looked at online at our website of www.germantownwi.gov. Is there anyone that wishes to come forward at this time to speak for or against the 2022 proposed budget? Anyone wishing to come forward to speak for or against? Anybody online? Okay, one last time. Is there anyone that wishes to speak at the public hearing for or against the Village of Germantown 2022 proposed budget? All right, then this public hearing is now closed. Excuse me.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, second puberty. That takes us then to new business, starting with new business item A.
Motion to-
Resolution 34-2021. The resolution is approving the 2022 village budget.
Motion
Board.
to approve new business A, resolution 34-2021.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. No discussion? No comments? No concerns? Okay, if there's no discussion, we can do a roll call vote.
Trustee Myers?
Aye.
Trustee Rick Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Baum? Trustee Hudson?
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Nightrider?
Aye.
Trustee Pieper? President Walter?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next item under new business is Resolution 35-2021, resolution approving the levying of property taxes for village purposes.
Motion to approve Resolution 35-2021.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. No discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Rick Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Baum? Trustee Hudson?
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Myers?
Aye.
Trustee Nightrider?
Aye.
Trustee Pieper? No. President Walter?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Yes. Village Administrator.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the village board for all of your guidance and direction as we've gone through the budget process here. Appreciate all of that. Wanted to thank Matthew for all of his hard work on the budget. There's a lot that goes into putting this all together, and he joined us, mid-year, and just very happy with the work that he did, and wanted to publicly recognize him, and then also just thank all the department heads. And I think it's a real good budget that the village board put together, but the grunt work of putting it all in place is really the department heads who are make that all happen. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you and all of them.
Thank you. Next item under new business is new business item C, Resolution 36-2021, the authorization, the placement of special charges on the 2021 tax roll against certain properties.
Mr. President,
Yes, Trustee Myers.
I would like to make the same statement that Steve just made to Matthew. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. No discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Baum, Trustee Myers,
Aye.
Trustee Hudson, Trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Nightrider,
Aye.
Trustee Pieper. No. President Walter.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Takes care of all resolutions in regards to the budget. Thank you. Next item is new business item D, the VFW Post 9202, the waive temporary use permit fee to sell Christmas trees and wreaths in the parking lot located at West 156 North 9666 Pilgrim Road, Hillcrest Center, November 20th through December 24th.
Motion to approve new business D.
Motion made and seconded. Question. This comes up every time about, do we have the authority to waive? Or is this worded correctly, Village Attorney? I know we've had previous discussions about our willingness or ability to waive temporary use permits.
Yeah, I mean, it technically, I think, should have been, or maybe it was, I didn't look at this item in the packet, a request for the public grant funds, which would be the appropriate way of doing it. Not sure whether they did that here or not. So with that, tell you that plenty of other communities do it. But just for those of you who are new, we've always taken the position that if you're imposing a fee, that fee by statute needs to reflect your actual cost to do something. And if you're picking and choosing who gets to pay that fee and who doesn't pay that fee on what is a somewhat arbitrary basis, you run into potential equal protection claims under the Constitution. So to just outright waive a fee, we don't believe is the appropriate method of doing that. What spurred us to create the public grant program effectively then established standards that we could apply to requests and effectively refund do that. And so certainly plenty of other communities just waive it. The likelihood that you will get sued is probably fairly small. The appropriate way would be to go grant program.
Trustee Nightrider.
President, what is the dollar amount for the use permit fee?
210.
Madam Clerk.
$210.
Thank you.
It's up to the board. You can choose to make a motion to amend, or you can go with the motion as it stands.
I'll make a motion to amend that we use our grant funds to refund the $210 permit fee for the VFW post 9202.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. What is the proper term for where we take the funds, not grant funds, is it?
Yeah, it's the public, I forget what the exact acronym stands for, the I'm not going to remember off the top of my head, but there's a really creative acronym behind the term public, but it would be that fund.
Okay. Motion to amend made and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, back to the motion as amended. Further discussion. Trustee Rick Miller.
So I'm a little confused at this motion then because it's to waive the fee. So how do we go about this now?
Well, with the amendment, it would be to refund the fees to us through that grant fund. So we get paid for the $200,
But
but
then we don't waive the fee.
we replace it more or less. We pay ourselves.
So what I'm asking is, how do we vote on this thing? If we're voting, I mean, the motion is to waive the fee.
Well, the motion's been amended, though.
My understanding of the amendment is that it's being amended to, instead of waiving the fee, to expenditure.
Okay. So we can vote in the positive and it's all good.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Further discussion? All those in favor?
We do have an application. I could email it to you.
Question is if application is necessary, and based on the clerk's response, the answer is yes. Further discussion?
Yeah, I guess I have one more question then. If you're coming in for the temporary use application, shouldn't there have been a public grant application given to the VFW at the same time? Is that just a clerical error that occurred? I mean, I don't know. I'm asking because of protocol here. I want to make sure that the VFW does this the right way the next time.
I can't speak to how the application came in or how that process worked. Clerk's office can or not.
I would say that if the village board does approve this and moves in this direction, this is something that comes up every year, and we can look at that as being the policy direction or that the board wants to go in the future, and make sure that the forms and everything is done in the proper sequence going forward.
Mr. Yachik, if you want to make a comment, could you come forward? Mr. Yachik's statement is that the VFW will request the application in the next, within the next year that they make this request for 2022. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Next item under new business is new business item E, a financial software presentation by Tyler Muniz.
Good evening. This is Albin Misha with Tyler Technologies. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So we appreciate the opportunity to visit with you folks this evening. Again, my name is Albin Misha with Tyler Technologies, and we have proposed our Munis ERP solution for the village. And they asked us to just provide a very high-level presentation for you of the software, and just to share a little bit about who we are as a company and what we do. I just want to share a PowerPoint that will kind of give you a brief overview. Bear with me one moment. And then we'll jump right into the presentation. So Tyler Technologies has been around for over almost 40 years now, and we've been providing software solutions specifically to the public sector. Actually, we're the largest company in the entire country that provides software and services specific to the public sector. We provide other solutions other than the financial management ERP solution that we're going to show you tonight. But some of the other things that we do are we provide appraisal and tax, court and justice solutions, public safety, but everything centered around the public sector. We've got over 27,000 customers using one of our solutions around the country. But more importantly, we've got over 2,000 customers using our Munis ERP solution. And what I'm showing you here is a list of our total client base in Wisconsin. We've been providing our ERP solution in Wisconsin for over 20 years now. And as you can see, we've got a very active user community that meets twice a year. We also have a national user conference where we have about 4,000 attendees participate. So we're very excited about the opportunity to work with the village. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Anthony Libby, who is one of our solution consultants that will give you a brief demonstration of our product.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Bear with me as I close out of the PowerPoint presentation and adjust your viewing pleasure. So we spent quite a bit of time with the village earlier here. Bear with me just for a moment while I kind of close some of these things down. But really what the village is going to gain is a single solution that is going to better serve not only the constituents that the village serves, but also the decision makers, your board members, as well as the workforce within the village. So we're going to spend a few minutes just kind of looking at some of those resources and starting really with some of those outward-facing tools that are going to allow the ratepayers within the village to access all of their utility bills online, pay them effectively within here, and have that feed seamlessly into our financial solution without any additional efforts on the village's side. This is a display of our utility billing access that can be not only used from a PC, but also from mobile devices. That's going to allow essentially anybody that does have a bill to see any of their bills that are outstanding, pay them online, and then really also start to request additional services from the village. So just kind of give you a quick display of what that looks like. You know, all of those folks will be able to access their accounts, drill into those accounts, and really get additional information within here, view their most recent bills, pull them up so that the village can reduce the amount of paper that's being produced. Even
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm just going to interject real quickly, just so that you know.
Sure.
The video feed, we see your picture, but the screen is not coming through on our
Well,
end.
that's probably not going to be the best demonstration then. Let me go ahead and see if I can adjust that for you. Thank you for speaking up now. Oh, technology. Let's see.
We saw the PowerPoint fine, but once you switched over to the demonstration, the screen is gray.
Interesting. Okay, so let me go ahead and try that again. So share. There we go. Let's try this.
There.
A little bit better. I mean, I do like looking at myself. That's this is probably better for demonstration purposes. So folks will be able to see their bills online and then act on them right from here, paying them over the web in whatever tenders that the village is willing to accept, and then have that feed right into the village's ERP solution. So it will certainly expedite the amount of effort on the village's side as far as collecting payments, reduce efforts on the village's side in accounting for those items, but then also open up a bit more transparency and channels for those constituents to request services, pay those bills, etc. Now, in addition to the utility billing side of the house, we also proposed our community development piece, which will be another outward-facing portal for your constituents to really kind of get a sense for where the village is in some of those community development initiatives, where they can apply electronically online for permits and things such as that, or in some cases, if necessary, be able to look up what's taking place for anything that's ongoing within the village. So this would be something that would sit on the village's website that would allow access, and the village will have control as far as the amount of information that is pushed out. But a simple query will allow those folks to see any of the activity within the village here. And you can see it's pulling up information as I type here. And then when I search for anything, it's showing all the inspections that are taking place within the village, with the ability to drill into any of these items as necessary, and really start to answer a lot of questions without having to go through a formal FOIA request in many cases, which certainly can be a burden on folks within the village as well. And as you can see, there's the ability to drill deeper and really get a sense for the workflows associated with these items, where we can pull up permits and see the workflow associated with that, see if there's any fees tied to any of these items, and if necessary, if you're one of those folks that needs to pay one of those permits online, you can do so within here as well. So just a really small sampling of some of those outward-facing tools for your constituents. But then let's take this a step further. How do we better serve the decision makers within the village, board members, the folks that are really the driving force behind the changes within the village? And for that, we're going to touch on a couple of our executive insights tools, where we can make sense of all this financial activity taking place within the ERP solution, but then surface it in a format that is easy to consume, easy to digest, and then allows folks to interact with. So this is our executive insights designed for to sit on top of your ERP solution. And then we also have another offering for our community development side of the house, where it's taking that raw data and making it much easier to consume, if you will. We can apply on top of these service level agreements or KPIs, if you will, to make sure that the village is staying on track based on user-defined goals and missions. So whether we're looking at budget information or payroll and HR information, any of these metrics can be extracted out of our solution and then surfaced for those folks. And what's also nice about this is the fact that for the folks that are sitting in the room right now, the board members, we can even set up user-defined views that if the village dips below or breaches a user-defined threshold, we can automate sending a notification to those folks without having to inquire about where we stand with any one of these items. So this is just a quick visual of our budget versus actuals, so something near and dear to Matt's world. But this allows folks to really start to dig into the budget associated with the village and then see how does that stack up to what we're actually spending versus what we appropriated for those items. And this is something that we can do some comparative analysis within here as well, and change the view, if you will, as far as how we're looking at this. And if we continue with some of these items, what's that going to look like if we're to continue on this spend or this collection rate at the end of the year? So there's some predictive analysis that goes into this. And these are all things that will come as part of the solution that we're pushing out as part of our proposal here. On the community development side of the house, again, taking into consideration all the code enforcement cases, all the inspections, all the permitting that's taking place across the village, those can all be surfaced. Again, another visual aid where you can see where we're living up to the service level agreements within here, and then allowing those folks to drill deeper casually at a pace that is really designed to allow you to be intuitively drill into these items and get a sense for where this activity is taking place. So this is something that does sit on some of the spatial information that the village can provide, and then allows those folks to really begin to be a bit more proactive versus reactive when reviewing this information. And then to better serve the folks that are working within the village, what we've proposed is our ERP solution. I'm going to highlight just a couple of the employees' views, the folks that are going to be doing the heavy lift, so to speak. And this is what we refer to as our Tyler Hub. This is essentially the starting point that I chose this particular view because as a departmental user, it is pulling together not only financial information, but also HCM information, your human capital management solution, where we can see total overtime over the last 30 days, as well as see information about applicant tracking, open positions within that department. These colorful cards in the center of the page here, this is showing projects that are being managed within that department, where we can quickly see if we have projects that have been overextended as far as the estimated funding sources that have been appropriated for those initiatives, projects that are past their end date or due date that was built out on the project, upcoming projects, projects in progress, and then all the budgetary information without having to go and print a report. As soon as those reports are printed onto paper, they begin to age, whereas within Munis or our ERP solution, all this information is being delivered in real time. And this is something that, based on who you are within the village, we can change the view for those folks. So this is another example of another view where anything that requires a signature in order to be processed within Munis, we can automate those, send those electronically, and allow those folks to act on them very seamlessly without having to push paper or use interoffice mail, some of the more antiquated solutions that many local governments have been using for, well, since the beginning of local government. So those are some of the tools that we're bringing to the table. I'll certainly provide an opportunity for anyone within the board meeting to ask questions as it may relate, but certainly during these presentations, we can spend days, let alone minutes, providing a quick overview.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, given the residents interface or allowing them to log in, is that driven by their login? Is it and their recognition of who's logging in and what information they're looking? Is that driven by their parcel number? Is it driven by their address? How does that know that who they're?
It is looking at I guess it's. We are looking at spatial information. If they're accessing this information from a mobile device, we are making sure that, especially in the realm of requesting services, that they are within the jurisdiction of the village. But yeah, typically there is a tie to that parcel information, yes.
Okay. So then the person needs to know their parcel number, or they just need to put in their
They
address?
just need to know their address, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then, you're showing all the different departments and the data that can be taken out, through reports or different visuals, depending on, what you want to see. But in order to get that type of data back out, it has to be put in. And, that seems somewhat time intensive when you have to load anything for the first time. Is it fed by department, or is it your company that's helping to get that information in, or how does that work?
So it is a combination of our implementation services that our company will provide. We refer to it as data conversion, but it's all part of the deployment of this solution. And certainly that's the heavy lift up front, but what that allows the village to do is to break down the silos in between the number of different solutions that the village is currently using that all don't speak to each other, which requires additional IT resources to make them speak to each other, or additional efforts on the finance department to account for those items using your traditional journal entries or some sort of imports, exports to account for all those items, which is time intensive and laborsome.
Okay, so when they're going through it and they're monitoring and putting it in, it's creating its history as a starting date of now. And when you're looking at comparatives from previous years, it is just going to start with 2022, and then you can build comparisons from that point. Or how does history get built into it?
So typically speaking, we're starting back in time. So we'll bring over a number of years, typically somewhere in the 3 to 5 year range of history, so that we can start to build those comparative analysis tools. And then in some areas, especially on the payroll side of the house, we can bring over all of the employees' payroll history and things such as that, your vendor history, payment histories. So we can see all of those items. But yes, we'll go back in time a little bit, and then over time, those comparative analysis reports will continue to grow.
And with the building of that previous history, is that taken out from the report or some sort of data from the current system, or has that become all manual or hard entry?
It's oftentimes brought over from sort of a data extract from those solutions that we're converting over into our solution. In very few cases is there a manual entry that is leveraged in order to update that information or bring that information over.
Even with the operating software of our system, which we've heard is COBOL?
We have our most seasoned and tenured group within the Tyler Technologies company is our conversions team. There's no system that they haven't seen in the market space, but that's my understanding, yes.
Okay, and then is each department then responsible to monitor their data to make sure it's accurate and correct?
It is part of the implementation process that Tyler will take the data from the village, convert the data into our Munis applications, and then we'll provide the appropriate tools and guidance to proof that information. There are critical sign-off points along the way that verifies that everyone that has reviewed this information has checked for accuracy.
Okay, and then what is the average time for implementation till it can be up and usable? How much time is usually, does it need a month, 2 months, 3 months, a week?
Well, we're looking at a number of different applications with the village, not just the financials and the payroll and human resources, utility billing, and community development. So the whole project is probably going to take 2 years from start to finish.
Okay.
In
Other
a phased
questions?
approach. So your financial system might be up and running, say within 9 to 12 months. And during that time, we'll have started the payroll and human resource phase, which would be another 9 months. And we'll phase in utility billing and community development as well. And I know that we have provided a statement of work of what our proposed phasing would be for the village.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Myers?
Dennis here. Is it true that employees will end up entering their own data as how many hours they worked each particular day and then to go into the payroll aspect?
That is a potential for some of the employees that we do have a time and attendance solution that, with further analysis, we'll make a determination who will be entering in their time utilizing a tool such as our executive time solution, where if I were to just simply log in as one of my employees here, whether this is done off a kiosk or even from a mobile device, it's going to essentially provide those employees the ability to add their own hours, code their hours, request time off, request overtime, which if you start thinking about managing overtime and things such as that, these are all tools that will replace oftentimes paper timesheets, which results in somebody having to hand key that information into the payroll solution. But there is that opportunity, yes.
The other thing that you mentioned, which I was thinking of in regard to this, is as you just mentioned, was the fact where there are places where people can enter in, like they're in the management team, to make sure that what was entered by the employee is correct. Has to go through the
Absolutely.
process before it goes into payroll.
Absolutely. And that's something that is an overarching recurring theme all throughout Munis, not just the time and attendance component. Everything that has an impact to the village's books, so to speak, there is that concept of an approval process where there's another set of eyes that's going to review this information for accuracy before it gets posted into your financial system of record or your HCM solution.
Thank you for your answers.
You're very welcome.
Other questions? Trustee Rick Miller?
Yeah, this might be for Administrator Krecklow, but for our staff, what would be their level of involvement when it comes to converting a system like this? Now, you know, the data is going to be manipulated and put into this system, but how much involvement does our staff have with this?
This will be a major piece of workload for village staff during the implementation process. That's one of the things, in addition to working through the statement of work and the contract issues with Tyler Munis that we'll be bringing forward to the board at hopefully at the next meeting. We've been working on planning on our side. So we'll need someone to function as a project manager. We'll need some functional leads for each one of the different pieces of the software system. And then village staff are going to have to do things like, pulling data out of existing systems and scrubbing it, making sure that we're putting good data into the new system. We've already started some work on that. So it is, for the next 2 years, going to be a major initiative, for village staff to work on. I don't have an exact estimate of hours off the top of my head, but it is something I think we can, by and large, absorb with existing staff. But it's also part of the reason why it does take as long as it does. If we were to bring in more outside resources and, if we were to backfill a couple of positions or a few positions with temporary staff so they could focus 100% on the project, we might be able to squeeze the timeline a little bit tighter. But there is a lot of work involved for village staff.
I would assume you're going to run parallel for a while and then cut over at some point.
Depending for different systems, I think there's different testing approaches, and I'd probably defer to Tyler Munis to talk about that a little bit further. I think in some cases it's parallel testing. In some cases there's other methods, some test scripts, some things that would need to be developed and run. But if a big part of their proposal that we evaluated was their implementation plan, and it did include a very thorough description of how they test before we go live.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback on those comments, it is a very scientific approach to these conversions. And we will start on the financial end of things. Financials, we found that we just need to take a small sample of data. We can run that through and compare that to essentially any of those financial solutions that the village is using today for accuracy from the reporting standpoint. And like every other phase that we'll go through, you'll hear the term, there's critical stopping points where we will assess that information that's coming out of the Tyler Munis solution, make sure that it is accurate before moving on to any other phase. When we get into the payroll conversions, though, that is something where we will run at least 2 full payroll parallels, where, and that's something that can be extended depending on the results, but we're not going to move forward going live on payroll until everybody's paid down to the penny for what we'd expect them to be. And it'll be a very similar process on the utility billing side of the house, Again, a very similar process for the community development.
So looking at this timeline here, do you anticipate using it for budgeting in 2020 for our 2023 budget, or are we probably looking at the following year? How's that for a loaded question?
I would imagine it would be for the following year, but I guess depending on how speedy we are, but I would imagine the following year.
Thank you.
Trustee Chandmiller?
Thank you. Did you mean the 2024 budget?
Yes.
Thank you. Matt and Steve, have you used this Tyler Munis Tyler form before?
I'm very familiar with it, but I've never used Tyler Munis. I came across them frequently in the past. I think I mentioned at one of the village board meetings, I spent part of my career working with Government Finance Officers Association on evaluation of different systems and helping municipalities select. So I was very familiar with Tyler Munis from those days. They were actually, when I was, one of the last things I did in my position in Milwaukee County was complete the selection process for a new ERP system they were implementing. Tyler Munis was one of the 2 finalists there, but Milwaukee County selected a different vendor in that case. But I've not personally used Tyler Munis in the past.
Okay, I have a couple other questions. So you're anticipating the financials will go first or out first?
We're still working through the timeline, and I mentioned this, we talked about this topic a bit at GGF earlier today. Typically, I think financials is what would go first. We're having some real issues with our utility billing system, and I've been talking with the folks from Tyler Munis to see if we might be able to adjust to the implementation schedule in order to get that done sooner rather than later. If we do financials first, we probably would have another full year under the current billing system that we'd have to limp along. And I'm not sure that that's feasible. We also have to try to time connect the new meter software, meter reading software that we're implementing with the utility billing. So it's fairly complicated. We haven't worked through all of those timeline issues yet, but we're hoping our priority is to try to get utility billing done as quickly as we're able to.
And how, this is for Anthony, by the way, yeah.
Sure. Yes.
So we have a lot of responsibility on the input, and I wanted to understand what you mean by community development. Is that a CRM system?
No, so that is our permitting and planning solution. I have it here. There we go. And this is, again, it would sit on top of, all of the village's current processes. But anytime somebody would need a permit or inspection or a license, this is essentially that one-stop shop to manage all of those items through our solutions.
So is there an opportunity to create a CRM for marketing?
In theory, yes, because we are going to maintain all of your customers' information in a single solution. So there's certainly a little bit of data mining that could be gathered just from various revenue streams that are coming in from the various processes within the village.
taxes, utility bills, things like that.
Absolutely. And that's where we start to see your community development executive insights come into play, where you can start to see trends. You know, where's the heat map showing uh, applications for permits being submitted across the village versus other areas. You know, where are the business licenses taking place? Code enforcement infractions. It starts to tell a story when you lay this information spatially on top of the activities within the village. And then once we've benchmarked against these particular goals that the village has set, then we can just start to monitor based on the normal day in, day out processing of the village, whether or not we're holding up and living up to those goals.
And you do have on your dashboard the graphs. Is the data available in Excel format?
Oh, absolutely. So if I were to go back to any one of these, actually, why don't we go back to my finance director over here? With any of these graphs that I'm presenting here, this is just a standard report that I've got nested in the middle of my dashboard here. And this is just showing the different types of pays that the village has been paying. If I want to look at any of this information, you can drill into it, and that's going to provide you a look, if you will, at the underlying records. But then all of these, whether we're looking at standard reports or the reports on our dashboards here, can be downloaded into Excel. And then we can take that a step further, and then we can start building this information into more meaningful reports. And these are all user defined, where as I go through these items, I can select the data elements that come from our solution and will display in Excel. You can massage the columns and really some of the formatting elements within here. Excuse me, and then download it into Excel. And just give this 1 second to pop up. So that's something that this is just the raw data on one tab, but everything is written in a way so that should we want to start to build out our own visualizations of these, see where those folks are working, the jobs that they occupy, the year-to-date hours, things such as that, we can really start to bend this information, create meaningful reporting that's really more user-defined and user-driven. That's a very simple explanation of that, but yes, we are very friendly with Excel. But the idea is to get out of having to capture information in an Excel spreadsheet for the sake of reporting. We want the information to go into our Tyler Munis solution so that when we want that Excel spreadsheet, we can just push it out from our ERP solution.
Trustee Myers.
Taking it a little bit further, can you actually have maps showing where the different permits are being displayed and to what effect, be it electrical, plumbing, or whatever?
Yes. So with these, it allows you to, when we look at these cards, and we refer to these as cards, we can drill into these items. Of course, this would be your map within here. And then you can start to filter down into specific areas to see average time spent with any of these. But then if there's a specific type of permit or item within here, you can focus on that. And the example that I have here, I don't have this set up to show it, but you can see the different permitting types can be displayed within here. So there's a little bit of filtering that can be done within here. There's the ability to group based on preference within here. And then start to look at this information over time as well and focus on a specific time frame where we start to see those peaks and valleys.
Thank you. One additional question, Steve. because we have a different company that's actually doing permits for people and we can do it online. How is this going to work as far as, is there some redundancy there?
No, actually, and Safe Built is our contractor for permits. They do have some online capabilities, but it was something that actually Jeff Retzloff and his department, after getting some feedback from Safe Built, was looking at systems for community development independently before we started the ERP system. Then as we were gathering the requirements, we saw that uh, that Tyler Munis had this capability, and we they demoed it for the community development staff, and they felt that actually this functionality met their needs better than other standalone systems that were out there.
I'll go into another question later on between the two of us, but it's good to see that as such. But my first thought would be people getting confused going over to here rather than coming in or going online for the other company that we have, and just get confused as to who's doing what and where.
This would be the sole system that people would be using. We would be giving our contractors with Safe Built access to this for processing. So they would be utilizing this system, which has, and Director Retzloff could get into more detail than I can, but that has a lot of the functionality that what we're currently offering online doesn't.
Thank you, Steve.
Trustee Ball.
Anthony, can you go back to the screen that had the employees and the hours that they were working?
Sure. Let's verify that. It's the right one. This one?
Yeah. So who has access to a page like this?
So this is something that is very scalable. So something like this would be geared towards your finance staff, folks that need to monitor this across the entire village. But this is also something that can be scalable so that a department head can manage the different types of pays that are coming out of their department. And that's something that's very much a big component of our solution, is creating the appropriate world or viewing for this information so that only the folks that need to see this information have access to it. And then we're creating a world where they don't have to sift through other folks or other departments' information if it doesn't pertain to them. The folks that are burdened with that are the folks that are a little bit further upstream, so to speak.
I guess my concern is how much access does the general resident of the village have into this system?
So for the outward facing portals, those it's really designed by the village to determine what your constituents can see. We're not pushing out information such as this out to the villages, and we do have other solutions that can provide that, but was not proposed at this time.
Okay. All right. That's all I needed. Thanks.
Yep.
Trustee Chan Miller.
That was one of my questions. So you can set permissions. So is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What about online? We get from time to time complaints. Is there a place where a resident can and lodge a complaint?
So that we have a number of places where that can be done. We have mobile devices that can capture that information and bottleneck it to the appropriate departments on the utility billing side of the house, or anybody that is a ratepayer. They can formally put in a service request, or whether it's to ask for a reread on a meter or just let the village know that they have a planned move out date and they need their services shut off at a specific time. But it's all modular based. And then with each one of those modules, if you will, we're making a determination where those comments are going to go, so to speak. So they're not going to inundate everyone across the village. It'll just be to a specific spokesperson.
Great. So that would include rates, water meters, any
Absolutely.
utilities, as well as potholes.
Yeah, I'll defer to Alvin on that one. It's based on I don't want to overstep what was the final proposal look like.
Yeah, so I think the pothole example is one that that is more of a work order related solution. Fallen tree, stop sign down, some of these other kind of complaints, which would create a work order. We do have those type of solutions that can handle those types of requests, but are not part of the focus of this project currently.
Trustee Miller, and if I just may add, we are starting the C-Click Fix CRM solution. So that's in place instead of their solution. So they do have something that would cost an addition, but we've already started a C-Click Fix solution that's with our current website. So that will be available as of the first of the year, but currently we're doing it internally to make sure that it works properly. So those are for like your potholes and your customer requests and issues like that.
So we're certain that isn't that redundant?
No, we already have that in place. That's why that's not part of their product that we're requesting of them.
No, but if it's a CRM and they have the ability to do the CRM, they're already data collecting because of the utilities.
Correct, but that's not for customer complaints. So I'm thinking it was like a year ago that you guys purchased the C-Click Fix solution.
It was before my time. But,
Okay. It was before my time too.
Yeah.
I'm just the one putting it out. So, but I just wanted to let you know that we already have that going out and being put in place. So that's not something that we request.
Other questions? No other questions at this time? Anything else you wish to show us or share?
No, I think we're good. We appreciate the opportunity to meet with you folks this evening.
Thank you for joining us and giving us this presentation and better insight as to what we have to look forward to in regards to our upcoming financial software and overview. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you too.
Take care.
Next item
Bye.
under new business then is item F, report on well 12 construction. And for that, I believe we have the Director of Public Works, Mr. Atachik.
If I could, while Mr. Tite